Hello and welcome back to this endless runner game tutorial. In our last video we had the parallax effect working really well. We had our distant background here, these clouds moving across quite slowly, and then we had the ground moving across really quickly. And this gave the impression of distance, so it looks like the clouds are way back in the distance. And so now in this tutorial we want to draw our hero on the ground so that he can jump over obstacles. And so the first thing we need to do is actually draw that hero. Now, a fellow teacher, Miss Habib, drew this great image of a panda. I've zoomed in a bit so you can see it here. But the important thing to remember is that after you've drawn your image, crop it as close to the character as you can. Because these areas here, even where the panda's not drawn, because they're part of the image, will be part of that collision detection. So if another image sort of collides with this bit here, it will be considered a collision. So crop it as close as you can, like we've done here, for the best effect. Now this image here is 57 pixels wide by 86 pixels high. So you want somewhere around that size, a little bigger, a little smaller is all fine. And then we want to be able to draw our image on our actual game. And so to do that, I'm going to upload our images. So let me select some files. I'm going to select Panda Walk 1. And I've actually got a second panda here that I will talk about a bit later. I'm going to upload them both now. So now I have them up here. So now we just want to draw our sprite. So whereabouts do we want to draw it? Well, if you recall, our canvas is 1,000 pixels wide. 1,000 pixels wide, and it is 300 pixels high. And so I want to draw the panda probably in a little bit and then not quite at the bottom. And remember, the coordinates for the panda is the top left of the image. So I probably want to come across 20 pixels, something like that. We can adjust this. And then down, well, if my panda was 86 pixels high, if I did 300 minus 86, that would draw it on the floor. So I want to be a little bit higher than that. So maybe let's start at like 300 minus 100. Let's start at 200 or maybe even 180. Yeah, I'm going to try 180. And then we can just experiment. So let me first create a sprite for our main character. So create our hero, and I'm going to call it Panda. You can call it whatever you want, but give it a meaningful name. And it's equal to a sprite. I'm going to use the first image, panda walk 1.png, and I'm going to, as I said, put it 20 pixels across and 180 pixels down. And let's just draw this. Now, where do we draw it? Here's our animation loop, which goes over and over, where we draw our background and move it, and then draw the foreground and move it. And I want to draw it after this. Otherwise, if I drew it before that, the background would override it. So draw our hero, and I'm going to just go panda.draw, because panda is what I called it. And now, there's our panda. That looks good. Or maybe I want him just slightly higher so he's on the grass. So maybe I'm going to try and do 170. Let's see what that looks like. Stop. Start. Yeah, I reckon that looks good. Walking on the grass. Great. And you know what? Maybe I could even move him in a little bit more. Let's try doubling that distance just to make it. Oops. Control Z. There we go. 40. Now. Yeah, I like that better. So you position him where you think your hero will look. Now what I want to do is get our hero to animate. So this is where the two images come in. Look here, I've got an example. I've got the first image, which is the one I loaded. And here's a second image of the panda. And notice here, he's changed his arm position and his feet position. So this is what you'll need to do. Draw a second image, exactly the same size, but just modify it so it looks like he's walking. And this third image, I've got this program, so when I hit the key, he changes. So watch this, I'll hit the key, he changes. And if I keep hitting the key, and if I do it faster and faster, he looks like he's walking or maybe even running. And this is how we achieve the animation. We just switch from one picture to the next, from one picture to the next. And that's how we'll do it. Now, if I was to switch really fast, he would look like he's going too fast. So I don't want to switch every time through this loop, or I could try it and see what it looks like, but he would be going too fast. But let's just get that switching working first. So how do I change his image from being one image to being the other? Well, this is where I need a new command, which is called the load image command. So I'm going to create a variable called PandaWalk1, and I'm going to set it equal to load image, and then I just load the image I want. And so we've already got this first image, so I'm going to load that. And then I'm going to create a second variable called, oh, I deleted it again, a second variable called PandaWalk2, which is equal to load image and PandaWalk2.png, which is the one I loaded before, PandaWalk2, which is this second image. So now if I switch between these two images, I should have our panda walking. So what I could do is, to switch between the images, I could just say if, and this is the thing, remember our panda is a sprite, and the sprite had some things we could do with it. So panda is a sprite, and the sprite had some properties, which is like information about it. So it had properties. And the information about it was things like its X position, its Y position, its width, its height. They were some properties. And then it had some methods or actions we could do with it. So remember, some things we can do with this is like draw it. We can move by to make it move. There was actually a move to make it just move to a position, and there was this overlaps to check if it was overlapping with another function. Well, there also happens to be a property here for a sprite, which is the image. So we can check this image to see what it currently is, and we can change it. And so updating this property will update it. So we can change it from that PandaWalk1 to PandaWalk2, and that will update the image. PandaWalk1, and if we change it to PandaWalk2, you'll see that animation occurring. So let's try that in some code. Alright, so if panda.image, so we're checking if the image is currently equal to PandaWalk1, so if it is the first image, then change the image, so panda.image, set it equal to PandaWalk2. And these here are the names of the variables we created here for the load image. And if it wasn't equal to PandaWalk1, then let's set it back to being PandaWalk1. Panda.image equals PandaWalk1. So let's just look at that logic again. We draw our image, and then we say if the image is equal to the first walk one, set it to the second. If it wasn't equal to the first, it must be equal to the second, so set it back to the first. So now we should see our panda, but he's going really fast. I don't know if you can tell that on the screencast, but he's switching like 60 times a second. So instead of switching that fast, we want to switch maybe every, I don't know, let's try 10 times through this loop. So to do that, we first need to count. Keep a count so we can check if we are going every 10 times. So I'm going to create a variable here called frame and set it equal to 0. And then every time through this loop, I'm just going to go frame equals frame plus 1. So this will go up very quickly. And then this check down here where we're checking, I only want to check if it's every 10th frame. And so how would I check if it's every 10th frame? Well, there's this thing called modulus. You might have heard it in maths. If I do, say I have the frame is equal to 10. If I divide this by 10 at the moment, I get this equals 1 with remainder of 0. And then when it's 11, if I divide by 10, this equals 1 remainder 1. And so on. When it's 12 divided by 10 equals 1 remainder 2. But when I get through all the way through to 20 and divide by 10, this equals 2 remainder 0. And so notice whenever the remainder is 0, it's every 10th frame. So when the frame's equal to 10 and I do divide by 10, the remainder will be 0. When it's equal to 20, the remainder will be 0. When it's equal to 30, the remainder will be 0. So I can do that using what's called a modulus operator, which is the percent operator. So if I do the frame, whatever our frame's up to, modulus 10, if I check if that's equal to 0, I know it's the 10th frame. So I can just do that in my code. So if the frame modulus 10 is equal to 0, then do this check. So I indent this all, because remember, if this condition's true, I do the check. If this condition's not true, then I ignore all this indented code. So I won't do it until it's the 10th frame. And then our panda should be walking. I mean, I still think that's a bit quick. So what I can do is just change this now. Maybe change it to every 20th frame. Or every, whatever I change this number to, every 15th frame, every 20th frame. You can experiment. I think that looks pretty cool. Maybe it's still a little too fast. You change around this number till you're happy with it. Let's try 30. Depends if you want your panda to be running or wanting to be a bit more relaxed. Yeah, that looks cool. I'm really happy with that. Awesome job. All right, so have a go, follow along, and hopefully you've got your hero walking along. And in the next video, we'll learn how to make our hero jump. So cool. All right, see you then.